And look, while we've all been busy arguing about whether a 2-liter of Coke costing $9 is transitory or permanent, which by the way is like arguing if a bear in your kitchen is just visiting or your new roommate, he's eating your salmon either way, the Federal Reserve has been quietly building a $12 trillion trap. And the bait? It's your entire freaking savings account. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This isn't speculation. This is mathematical certainty. The government and its weird unelected banking wizards at the Fed have set in motion a systematic destruction of your wealth. And they've already lit the fuse. It all starts with something that sounds incredibly boring, which is always where they hide the financial crimes. It's called a zero-coupon treasury bond. Here's how it works. You give the government, say, $24 today, and in return, they promise to give you $100 back in 30 years. Sounds great, right? It's like a magic bean, except instead of a giant, you just get to become your own grandfather. But here is the horrifying catch. These bonds are unbelievably sensitive to interest rates. They have something called duration risk, which is a fancy term for a catastrophic built-in design flaw. You see, for every 1% that interest rates go up, that bond you're holding instantly loses about 30% of its value. That's not an investment. That is a hand grenade with a 30-year pin. And this is where the story gets truly insane. I mean, you might be thinking, but Matt, I just heard on the news the Fed is going to be cutting interest rates to save the economy. And you're 100% right. Last week, the Fed cut its short-term rate by 0.25%, and they're signaling 2 more cuts are on the way. But here is the mathematical horror show. The 30-year Treasury rate still went up. Yeah, the Fed is stomping on the rates go down pedal, and the market is grabbing the emergency brake. We now have the Fed lowering its rate, the short-term one, while the market is demanding a higher rate, the 30-year one. This is called a divergence, and it is the bond market's way of screaming, "We don't trust you." So why is this happening? Simple. The US government is spending money with the frantic, sweaty energy of a first-year college student with their very first credit card. The federal deficit has hit $2 trillion for the year. That's not an oops. That's not we forgot to cancel the free trial. That is a we bought a solid gold yacht and immediately sank it for the insurance money level of financial insanity. And the Fed, our supposed adults in the room, they see this $2 trillion fire and they see the labor market getting a bit wobbly, so they've decided to ignore the fire and cut rates. The bond vigilantes, real investors, are looking at this and saying, wait, you're going to print more money and make it cheaper to borrow while the government is already $2 trillion in the hole and inflation is still high? All right, fine. We'll lend you the money for 30 years, but you are going to pay us a massive premium for the privilege. And that is why the hand grenade is even more dangerous than we thought. The Fed has lost control. And look at the numbers. They were letting $25 billion in bonds run off their books each month, but now they've slowed it to just $5 billion. Their balance sheet is still a staggering $6.7 trillion. That's not a diet, though. That's saying you're cutting back by switching from a 2-gallon bucket of ice cream to a 1.9-gallon bucket of ice cream, and then calling yourself a fitness influencer. It's a meaningless gesture designed to look responsible while they continue to enable the underlying inflation. And it gets worse. Because the government needs to borrow all this money, we're talking $25 trillion a year just to pay the new bills and roll over the old ones, it has to hold auctions. Who wants our IOUs? Get your fresh, hot IOUs here. And lately, the answer is nobody. At a recent auction, demand was abysmal. The bond vigilantes, they're back. These are investors who are essentially telling the government, you are a financial dumpster fire, and we are not lending you money unless you pay us loan shark rates. And it gets even more worse. Foreign countries are dumping us. Foreign central banks have sold $48 billion in US debt just since March. And they're not selling because the dollar is strong. They're selling while the dollar is weak. That's not profit taking. That's permanent diversification away. That's getting out before the building collapses. It breaks the old system where the world's demand for dollars let Washington borrow endlessly. It's the financial equivalent of seeing your dinner guests quietly climbing out the bathroom window. And this all brings us to the final horrifying mathematical trap. The government faces an impossible choice. Option A, Let interest rates rise to what the market actually demands. But if rates go up, the interest on our debt explodes. A 1% rise costs us $1.5 trillion. Net interest costs are already $1.3 trillion this year. The whole system immediately implodes. Or option B, force the Fed to print trillions of new dollars to buy all this debt themselves, keeping rates artificially low. This guarantees massive runaway inflation. It is a lose-lose. It's like being asked if you'd rather be eaten by a shark or a slightly larger shark. Either way, you're effed. And here's the most insulting part. This is the real kick in the teeth. Let's say you buy that 30-year bond. Thanks to inflation, that $100 you get back in 2055 will have the purchasing power of what $13 buys you today. You will have lost everything. But, and I'm not making this up, the IRS will still tax you every single year on phantom interest you never actually received. You are literally paying taxes on the privilege of having your life savings incinerated. That's not just theft, it's double theft. Inflation robs your purchasing power while the IRS taxes you on imaginary gains. You're paying the government to destroy you. It's a rigged casino where the house is on fire. The dealer is printing new chips that are worth less every second, and you are being charged for the smoke inhalation. So what can you do about this $12 trillion financial bear that's already in your kitchen eating your salmon? Look, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a guy who rants about economics on YouTube and occasionally gets death threats from people who think the Federal Reserve is their friend. But I can do math, and the math says you have maybe 18 months before this whole thing goes full Weimar Republic. But here's the thing that should absolutely terrify you. Everything I just showed you, the $12 trillion trap, the phantom taxes, the foreign countries running for the exits, that's just the warm-up act. Because while everyone's been watching this slow motion train wreck, 3 even bigger financial bombs have been quietly ticking away. And when they go off, probably in the next 12 to 18, maybe 24 months, they're going to make today's inflation look like a gentle summer breeze. The first one involves your 401k. The second one is hiding in plain sight in your grocery store. And the third one, it's the reason China and Russia have been buying gold like they know something we don't. Don't play their rigged game. Stop buying 30-year promises from people who can't balance a checkbook. It's like lending money to your cousin who just needs $50 for gas but shows up in a new BMW. Own things they can't print, like land. Businesses that generate actual cash flow. Hell, even a decent bottle of whiskey holds its value better than a treasury bond right now. Keep your powder dry. When this house of cards finally collapses, and it will, you want to be the guy with the cash, not the guy desperately trying to sell his underwater bonds to buy groceries. I've put together one way to position yourself to not just survive, but actually profit when they detonate in the video that I'm dropping for you right here. You'll want to watch it if you're short on time or your desire to do all of the heavy lifting that's going to be required. This is for you. Fair warning though, what you're about to see could possibly put you to sleep. But it's about the only thing left for the average Joe to do to save their financial life.